Yeah, welcome to the Multiboxing Podcast, episode 5. No special guest this week, just me and Multi Days. So it was Thanksgiving, which I had a wonderful Thanksgiving. We hosted for the first time, so we did the whole turkey thing.
Yeah.
Had my folks over. It was like a really good time, and I played like way too many video games. If I'm being honest, it was quite a helter skelter of events going on. I released like 4 Final Fantasy videos, and then Sunday morning I woke up and decided that I was gonna play WoW solo as like a solo character, and I like rushed to 60 yesterday, and then you and I talked for like a couple hours last night
Yeah.
about a bunch of stuff, and I'm super stoked for this podcast because I feel like we've got like way too much stuff to talk about.
I logged out of my games just for a hot second. I think it was causing a little bit of a delay, but it should be good now.
Okay.
Should be good. Yeah. No, I agree. Yeah. So we did chat last night, so I'm hoping that we didn't use up all the chats because it was really good.
No,
Overall.
I think that would be impossible. I think there's like way too much to talk on.
There
But
there is a lot of content right now though, for sure.
Yeah, what's been your favorite part of Shadowlands so far?
I'm not really a big person into the storyline, but I like that it's all fresh and new. Like there's nothing. They've used some of the characters, like we got like Anduin and Sylvanas and things in there, but it's all like completely new areas that we'd never been exposed to before. So it feels nice and fresh, like it's a new shiny wrapper on top of it. And I say the shiny wrapper too, but at the same time, like under the hood too, there's a lot more new mechanics in the game as well. Like we have this new system, the Covenant system, which is kind of like a new talent tree, but also the Torghast, which I was just doing here previously, is basically like what's the official word for it? Is it called like a rogue dungeon? Is that what they call these things? I think it's like a.
I don't actually know what they're called. I didn't know there was like a name for them. I like them though.
Yeah, there's something like they're basically like endless dungeons, right? But there's definitely a name for it in the RPG world, and their other games had this like Diablo 3, but this is definitely roguelike dungeon, I guess maybe is what the phrase is. I don't know why they use the word rogue, but yeah, it's super awesome because it's continually fresh content. And obviously the rooms will start getting like procedurally generated, and after a while you maybe will start noticing that. But no two dungeons is ever going to be the exact same replica. So that keeps it nice and fresh, which hurts it on a competitive side maybe. But I really don't mind too much on that. They can still make it fun. And there's a lot of things to do, even though there's technically not a lot of things to do. The repay value is really high at the moment on what you can do. So that's mine.
Yeah, I had like mixed feelings on Torghast because I did it like this morning because I hit
solo?
60 like pretty late last night. I did, but it was I didn't like how it was like 6 levels.
Yeah.
Between each one, it felt like a lot.
Yeah. So that does it does seem like it's a little bit of a time.
Like I don't know how long it takes you to go through the 6th floor, somewhere in there. Yeah, and it's weird because like it's randomized to a point, but they kind of all feel pretty similar. Like once you have done it more than once or twice, you kind of start to see the pattern, which like you totally see that in Diablo or any other game like this. And I'm sure like 6 months from now, we're gonna like zone into one, and you're gonna immediately know what like a lot of the different ones are.
Yeah.
Which is totally fine. I'm totally fine with that. I would have liked if they didn't have like the layer concept and it was just floors, or like I'm fine with like how long the layer takes to get through, which the layer is like the 6 floors.
Yeah.
But it would have been really nice if it was just one floor and you explored this like whole floor, and because right now like floor 4 is like the longest one. Floor 4 is like super long, and there's like different directions to go. Well, and then it feels really bad.
It's also really random too. Like sometimes, like every floor I've gone in has been like 2 rooms, and that's it. And sometimes I've gone to a floor that's like super long. So yeah, like so you may have seen that floor was really long, but it's just literally completely RNG on there. I think that's why I was kind of like touching.
It must be because I mean I had floor 4 be long like 2 runs in a row, and that's what made me think that. And I think floor 2 or floor 3 was like the one where you just have the vendor. or something. So I was like, okay, well maybe there's always a vendor floor, and maybe there's always a really long floor, and then maybe there's always really short floors.
So yeah, I think currently right
The long
now,
ones were just kind of.
yeah, it looks like floor 3 has been consistently a vendor or just like a freebie one, and then floor 6 is always the boss. So you basically have out of 6 floors, you have 4 like legit ones you have to do, and then within that it's completely it seems random. I don't know, and a lot of the stuff too, like it depends on your class. Like on the druids, you can skip a lot of it. You can stealth through it and completely ignore what's going on there. But let me see if I just minimize.
Yeah, but that might be to your downfall too at the same time, because you've got the that like power-ups along the way. And that's like the thing too, like with the longer levels, it's like, do you want to explore the entire level and see if you can get more power-ups for the boss that's coming up? Or do you want to get through it as fast as you can because you
totally
only have half an hour?
Yeah, no, that's totally a thing too. Is like you still need to make sure you're getting enough of those power ups, or when you get to the boss at the end, unless you've done it consistently over and over again, you may not be able to handle it, because some of those power ups make things a lot easier for sure.
Yeah, it feels really bad when you don't get good power ups though. Like I had that happen in one of my runs today, where like one run I had, and then the next run I didn't really get anything of value, or I at least didn't get like that super strong power spike, and it just didn't feel great.
Yeah, it's been random too on mine. Hopefully if you're playing, like if you're like multi-boxing, it kind of evens out, right? Because it's completely random on all 5 characters get it. So hopefully that with enough RNG, like a couple of them can carry the rest of it. I'm interested to see how it goes, because like if I looked at it correctly, there's multiple layers. I think there's like 12 layers maybe right now or something, or 18 something. So there's quite a few layers, and each layer has 6 floors within it. So I'm not sure how they ramp up the difficulty on there, but some of the floors get extremely tough. Like I was talking to Void this morning, and he did one of the ones he had to do was every floor you went on, basically there was a debuff of the entire zone, and like the floor you were in, where you would take 1% health in every 5 seconds. So on floor 3, you'd be taking 3% damage every 5 seconds. And then if you're a solo player who doesn't have any heals, I mean,
that's intense.
It becomes crazy. But I did that floor, but I did it on my druids, and the druids had the passive affinity bonus where they heal themselves 3% every 5 seconds. So it kind of basically counteracted that for the most part. And I found a couple power ups that doubled the effectiveness of the affinity. So they basically helped negate it for that one run on mine. But there's gonna be some interesting layouts there for sure on how it pans out. I mean, it's still in the infant stages right now of how this is all gonna look.
Yeah, I think they're gonna tweak it too. Like I was doing it, so I leveled a warlock. For those that aren't aware, like I pretty much main warlock. Healing. They really just have like drain life and health stone, and you've got like you've got some other things that can heal you.
Hey, Zach, 1 second.
Plenty of
there's like a
combat healing.
It's like a little bit of a delay, or not delay, but like a connection issue. Do you want to try to just do like just voice only? But we were talking about the percentage health one, and I was just fighting that one just now.
I haven't fought that one yet.
It looks like it's on this layer 3. It's always like on Afix. So yeah, like luckily, luckily the 3rd floor is like a gimme floor, so it's not doing it. But I think on floors 4 and 5, it basically is just gonna ramp up and do like 4% health every 5 seconds. So that's what I have to look forward to. Yeah, that's a little interesting. Although you play on Warlock, right? So you can just tap the light.
Yeah, I was actually, so I haven't really gotten gear on my Warlock. I've just been working on getting like Renown rank 3 and doing like all the dailies and running around and just making sure I got like all of that required stuff done before I focused on getting gear. So I'm only like eye level 151, and like I was struggling on the 2nd layer. Like I couldn't kill the boss. I had like multiple 3% wipes. Like I was like,
oh man,
I popped a flask, I popped a potion. Like I was doing like all kinds of like really just like crazy things to try to like overcome it, and just couldn't, because I was just under geared. And I haven't gone back since, because I'm probably not going to continue playing Lock. But
I got you. I did that as well. Like I looked at my bag. I'm like, all right, what can I do? And I was like, I have like this battle augmented room that gives me like six strength or something.
Yeah, 6 strength.
I'm like, all right, well, let's just use it. This gives me something. So it's to kind of like to recap on the Torghast. It's fun. It's completely random on there, and then there's definitely a difficulty scale too that it kind of goes crazy. I think once everybody gets like a lot more eye level, kind of like when your baseline is like mythic quality or better, we should see it kind of stabilize and not be like, oh, this is crazy. But I think even then you go to the higher layers, and the higher layers are going to be crazy. But I don't know how much crazy you can get though, because the traps and everything are like the spikes and all that, and they come out. They already one shot you, so they can't get worse than one shotting you. On that,
they actually don't. When you're playing solo.
Huh. Well, maybe it's just
they do like 50% of your health.
The swinging axe does not kill me, but the fire that comes up from the ground, any kind of fire, pretty much kills me in one hit.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
I haven't really like intentionally gotten hit by any of it. So
look at this guy.
No, like I'm just saying.
I'm just kidding.
It's a lot easier to avoid it when you're only controlling one character.
So you're playing.
So I don't know.
You're playing Lock, right? And you're playing, and then you're playing. You started playing the Holy Paladin, right? I guess as well.
Yeah, I raid as a warlock, but I don't really like doing like dungeon content as a warlock or DPS. Really, I prefer to tank or heal.
Yeah. I got you.
And my raiding guild was basically like, because I totally abandoned them for like a week, and they're like, like go away.
You went on that Final Fantasy excursion. Which Final Fantasy? It's still really good though.
It is, yeah. I've been enjoying it a lot. It's been a lot of fun. So, like, absolutely no regrets on any decisions I've made to this point.
So for anybody listening, would you still recommend it for sure? Just more treat it as a casual game, though, right? Not like don't play it hardcore. I'm guessing.
I think what I've learned about the game, and I'm not sure if this is actually true, is that in World of Warcraft, the whole point is to get to the end game. Everything starts at the end game. There's really nothing. There's really not a whole lot for you until the end game. In Final Fantasy, it's really not the case at all. It's like a completely different approach to it. It's really a story-based game, and everything along the way, like there's a ton of content just getting to max level. But once you're max level, there's not a whole lot of substance to it. Like you've already beaten all the content, so you're just waiting for the next content patch to come out in order to have more content to do, or you're just like repeating the same thing. Which I guess you could argue about like WoW's in game with Mythic Plus.
Right.
But at the same time, like you can grind Mythic Plus dungeons and there's like more content that feels fresh or feels challenging, where Final Fantasy doesn't really have that. So
and I guess they could probably introduce it as well, but doing all the rotations and whatnot, like in WoW, like every week is basically you treat the dungeon differently because of how the affixes work and things like that, and they keep making it fresh, with like the seasonal affixes as well.
Yeah, well, and just even like how the borrowed power systems work, like they give you a reason to log in for 3 hours every week.
True.
At minimum. So there's always going to be something to do in WoW, which is kind of why I like decided to come back, because I was like, well, if I hit this wall and I eventually just run out of content in Final Fantasy, I want to have like something else to do, and I don't want to jump in like patch 2 or patch 3 of Shadowlands and then feel like I'm like super far behind. I'd rather just play a few hours a week, and kind of keep up, even if I'm going at a very casual pace, than to like try to jump in like a year.
That's the best thing though. Like in any kind of thing, like I would say this past week I played probably WoW quite a bit, and I'm sure my playtime is gonna like drop significantly now from where it was. But it's all about moderation.
Absolutely.
Too. And then once you get in the groove of it, I mean, if you're not playing like crazy, like it always feels good to log in, and it lasts a long time either way. But I think maybe Final Fantasy could be like that too. Then I don't know. I guess a lot of games could be like that if you're only playing it a little bit, as opposed to like a lot, or just mix it up.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think the only difference is I don't see Final Fantasy really having a maintenance mode.
Gotcha,
like once you do everything in Final Fantasy, then you're waiting on that next content patch. The next content patch comes out, maybe you have like a couple weeks with it. Right? Like if that new dungeon takes forever for you to figure out how to clear. But then you're in the same problem. You run into the same problem. You don't have anything to do now. At least that's my perception of it. That could not be based in reality. Maybe I'll be surprised. But just as I've gone through the MSQ and I've like I'm like, oh, I'm done with patch 2.4 now. And it's like, oh, I've got patch 2.5 next. I'm
so
like,
there is like
oh,
rating. I think I'm not sure if it goes up to 16. It's either 16 or something. I know there's a lot of 8-mans as well.
it's 8-man, yeah.
Okay.
And it's not like a raid dungeon like you would think of in World of Warcraft. It's like individual bosses.
Yes. Yeah. Oh,
And so you've got like a one boss trial, I think is what they're called.
yeah.
And
It goes up to 24 though too, because I know
the alliance raids, yeah.
but there is stuff at the end game too, but it's probably not suited for multiboxing. It's like, but it is very
probably
very
better to just do it solo.
Yeah. But I know what you mean though, right? Like it's just But a nice thing though, I guess for like the whole thing is like once you wipe in there, it's like all LFR, right? Where you get a little buff, and if you wipe up to like 10 times or whatever.
Yeah, kind of. It's in certain content you get it, and it's the 8-man like trial content.
Yeah.
That you see it the most. There's like one 4-man. So in the beginning of the game, there's like all these trials or 4-mans, and so you can just do them as your group, and they're super challenging. Like one boss, you get like an hour to do it, and like it was a blast. Like
Yeah.
every single boss was like super challenging, and then I got to like the third or fourth one, and they started giving me this like buff after 30 minutes. It's like, oh, you've wiped again, so here's 10% health, 10% damage, and 10% healing. And then after like the fourth wipe after that, like you can't not beat the boss, which actually I don't really like, but I get why they added it in, because the boss is super challenging.
Yeah, they try to cater to a lot of different, I think, groups out there on that front. So yeah, so I guess I would still rank it. The good news though is that Final Fantasy is still a multi-boxable game. Just if your playtime allows you to play a lot more, maybe WoW is still the option there then.
Yeah, I mean, I think my problem is that I've always been the kind of like goal-oriented gamer, and so I've always just like tried to like push and get everything done. And then like with Final Fantasy, it's like there's just this huge wall of content, and I'm just like overwhelmed by it. And I'm just like, this is actually not good for me to try to push through all of this. Agreed. Like I need to do something else in the meantime.
Totally agree.
And just separate it out.
Yep, I agree. That's why WoWs could come back in. Yeah, which happened for me too. Like I took a break from WoW, and this is probably like 2 years ago. And I played some Final Fantasy, and I was just super into it. And I kind of hit the same level. I was like I think I was level 54. I was doing that main storyline, and I was trying to push through it as well. And then I was just like, man, this is just, so you got to switch it up, yeah.
If you try to approach it the same way that you approach like WoW's endgame, you're gonna burn yourself out.
For sure.
Yeah, it's just the kind of how it goes.
Different style. I agree. Yeah. So I guess then moving back to WoW now, we've got a 1 week exposure, and we touched a little bit on the different things that I kind of liked about it or whatnot, but I kind of want to talk about like for like multi-boxing in general in terms of like what I've tried and I guess maybe what other people have tried, and then kind of go from there, and then you kind of like tell me what. Do
you want to talk about leveling first, or do you want to talk about that?
Let's do the leveling. Yeah. And actually,
because leveling's been super interesting.
I think my opinion is changing on it as well now that
mine is evolving by the minute.
Yeah. So the first one you go through, you don't have a choice, but you do have a choice sort of. You could level one character solo and hit 60, and it would unlock your entire account. So you could completely skip it if you don't want to do the storyline on the whole team. But the storyline leveling is actually pretty fast because the quests they give you are like bam 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 bam. They're consistent, it's constant, and they're also easy quests. Whereas if you pick the Threads of Fate, they take a lot longer, and it's none of the main storyline quests. It's all the side objectives, and a lot of them are just like out of the way and usually not worth it for a time consuming standpoint.
It was weird because it's almost like they borrowed that concept from Final Fantasy.
Yeah,
it was kind of cool to see that, like, oh, I know exactly what I need to do in order to like make it through the story and like be at the end game.
Yeah,
but at the same time, it almost like it was kind of frustrating because a lot of it was level gated. It's like, oh, you can't do this until you get to level 58. And it was totally arbitrary. And then I'd be like, well, okay, well now I have to go do random quests. Like, what the heck?
Yeah. So I think on here to make, so what my current thought for multiboxing, right, is for your alt teams, it might be more beneficial to do the storyline again. And then when you're about to hit level 60, flip on Threads of Fate to skip the rest of the storyline that you haven't finished, and also to skip your Covenant like questing too, because you can skip that whole process as well for the Covenant, like the initiation thing. You can just say like, oh, I've heard this before, even if you've never done that Covenant's storyline before, and you skip that piece too.
Yeah. I think they're gonna have to make some changes to Threads of Fate because I think it's actually really good.
Yes,
I think it's just a little undertuned right now.
Yeah.
And some of the quests feel really awkward. So like we were talking last night about this, about how like one of them was giving you like you were killing a mob and it was giving you like 1%. So you're like sitting doing this quest for like half an hour.
You're doing the world quest, right? And the world quest, like you have to kill like almost 100 mobs just to finish that one. And so in the percentage there, if you don't have war mode on, it was giving me like 17,000 experience, but I needed over 300,000 experience to level. So I mean that one quest that was taking so long was just such a small chunk of the whole
Some
thing.
of them move pretty quickly though. So I started doing a bunch around Bastion. I got to like 65% on the Bastion thing, so I did like a fair number of them. And like I got a whole level doing it, and it was super sloggy on like some of them because the quest was just poorly designed.
Yeah.
But I feel like if they made minor tweaks to the system, it would actually be very good.
Oh,
like I feel like they're not far off on this. As it stands now, though, I kind of agree with you.
Yeah. So if you do the Threads of Fate, leveling via dungeon is super awesome, but at about 55, 56, and especially 57, your gear no longer scales well with your relative eye level. Like you're getting upgrades in the dungeons, but you're so far behind where you're typically at. And maybe it's because I was already overgeared at like level 51 that it felt good. But even at that point, like the difficulty of the dungeons was way harder than so. If, for example, I did like a level 58 dungeon once, and I did a level 59 dungeon once, and the difficulty was way harder than me at level 60, which is a little bit better gear. Like that's still way behind. Like it drops like 158 gear as the normal, and if my character had an eye level average of like 140, it felt way better than if I had like an eye level average of like 120, but I was doing a level 59 dungeon. Like they had to fix the tuning there or something. It was just way too hard.
It seems like there's like a weird power spike around like 57 or 58 where like there's just this big jump.
And then that happened in Legion too, or not Legion, but BFA, right? Like as soon as you lost your legendary effect, and at level like 55, no, I'm sorry, not 55, like 115 to 116, was a massive change, and like you basically felt powerless at that point. It was a huge difference there too. On that one.
That's pretty typical. I mean, I don't think they're gonna make that better. I think the only way dungeons really work out or make sense in Threads of Fate, if you're like very confident in your ability to clear those dungeons.
Yeah.
And if your team is geared from the previous expansion, like their item level 110 or 120, then it's probably not too bad. Like you can probably just steamroll the dungeons for like the first few levels. But there's only 4 dungeons, and
exactly,
and you only get like a third of a level. So if you're not running those dungeons in like 20 minutes, it's probably not a good use of your time.
Exactly. Oh, and also to note though, like if you do the Threads of Fate, just fly. You'll already have the flight path, but fly to each covenant, like or each location, and it gives you that aiding that you get a quest to aid that area, and you just fill up that bar via doing dungeons or quests. And
I don't think I realized that dungeons were part of that. I think I'll have to go pick those up in each of them.
A dungeon gives you about 10 to 12% total, but so it still takes a while to fill it up, but it's an extra 80,000 experience, so it's just free, passive experience.
Yeah, no, that's significant.
If you can finish it off. And that was kind of what the other hardcore raiders were suggesting too. Like we saw that Dratnos video. Where they said they stopped dungeon grinding at level 58.5, and they just finished up those quests that they had, because it's still hard to fill up the percentages if you're just doing dungeons, and then switch from there.
Those world quests are a lot easier too if you have a group.
Yes.
That's
like
right.
If you have a group, but it's not like a multi-box group, like it's like a
So I was doing world quest this morning, trying to get my 1,000 anima for the rank 3 renown.
Right.
And like I would just go, like world quests were taking me like 2 minutes. I was literally just hopping from world quest to world quest.
Wow.
Dropping rain of fires everywhere, and like people were hyper spawning the whole thing. Like it was insane. So like but when you do the Threads of Fate, you're not playing with everybody that's at level 60. You're playing at level 52 in like your own little Threads of Fate area.
Yes.
And not enough people are doing it. So if more people were participating and places were hyper spawning, I think it would actually be way better. And I think like if you were running around as a boomkin, just like spamming Moonfire, I think it could actually be very efficient. But outside of that, I think it's a total toss up, or like it's probably worse in most cases.
So you mentioned something real quick. I want to note on it, but the hyper spawns. For some reason, something was happening last night, but it looked like the minerals, like the herbs, were hyper spawning. I was like so flabbergasted, but I was a Bastion, and like, or is it Bastion or Bastion? I don't know. Either way,
I think it's Bastion.
Bastion. So like I would pick an herb, and there's tons of other people picking herbs too, right? Like the prices have kind of just plummeted from where they were. We figured that was going to happen, but either way,
it always happens.
Yeah, I'm picking the herb, and then I'd look away for like 5 seconds, and that same spot I picked it was already back. I was like, what just happened? And like it was just all over the place. I don't know if they did that. They must have changed something, but there was a ton of people picking herbs. Some of them look legit. Some of them looked a little sketchy.
For a game studio that's really trying to crack down on botting, they sure seem to add a lot of features that
and I could be
really.
Yeah, I could be totally wrong on that, but it looked a little odd.
I mean, you might be right.
So either way, there might be hyperspawn herbing out there. I don't know if it's a thing, but hopefully not. Hopefully it doesn't go down that road. Because I mean, at the end of the day, though, the way that works, though, I guess, is it self-regulates, right? Like it can cause just prices just to plummet because there's too much. It's a supply and demand thing as opposed to just pure raw gold as an alternative. So.
Yeah, I can't I don't really know. I don't really know if I have like an opinion on it right now. I guess we'll have to see how it plays out.
Yeah, but even I felt bad though. I was like, I don't know if I should be doing this.
And like they just like crack down on like botting farming or whatever. Like I know that's not what you're doing, but it's like my part of the problem? Like probably not, but it's certainly a guilty feeling. I can understand that.
So with all that, I think in total, like when I say there was a lot, like I didn't do it a ton. I think I got to like skill level like 65 or something, or 70. So I picked like 70 different herbs, and that was over a period of like an hour and a half or so, or maybe less than that. Either way though, I picked a lot, but I was still doing questing in the meantime. But yeah,
that's like 70,000 experience though. Yeah, no, that's pretty good. That's almost a third of a level. Yeah,
I ended up doing that for the last bit of my level 60 or level 59 to 60. Is I had 2 bars left out of the. If you look at the experience bars, there's 20 total. I had 2 left, so basically like 10% of the level. And I did not.
It's like 30 herbs.
I didn't want to do another like world quest anywhere. I was like, let me just like find some herbs and just become a farmer for a hot second. Which would actually help because I was able to take those herbs, sell them in the auction house, and I didn't have to inject any gold in this character for my other characters. And at level 60, you want to buy the crafted gear. It's eye level 151 gear, so it's still a little bit less than normal dungeons, which are 158. But it closes that massive gap because typically the gear you're going to have at level 60 is going to be like in the 120s, maybe a couple pieces in the 130s. And if you're questing though, you might even have some in the 140s. Like for pieces.
I think I came out at like 138.
Yeah, but even then, that's a massive disparity. Like you're walking into like a normal dungeon, and your level is almost 30 eye levels lower. Or
let's go ahead and talk about eye level real quick. They need to change something with it. They need to either give you higher level quest rewards, or they need to lower the requirements for. They certainly need to lower the requirements for normal dungeons. So like some of the normal dungeons require eye level 144, which is like ridiculous. Because you're not item level 144 when you hit 60.
No.
Granted, you can buy the 151 gear for not too bad, but
right. Yeah. So there is that now, but yeah, even then though, like it's a huge like crazy. Like I hit max level on my druids, and I was like, all right, let me queue up for some random dungeons because you can do the random queue to get like the extra little bonus of anima or something in there in gold. And I couldn't queue for it because my eye level was too low because like you said, I had to 144. And the same thing applies for even heroics, which is a little bit higher. But even buying all the crafted gear and everything, I'm still nowhere close on my new hunter team.
And the rewards from normal dungeons are 158. So you need eye level 155 to do
average, exactly. Which
and you only get 158 from doing normal dungeons.
Exactly. So you got to figure out some other area to get these items, and then when you get to heroic though, at least the heroics are dropping 171 gear. Which
I thought it was higher than that, but you might be right.
Yeah, and then mythic is 184. So it's a pretty big jump between each piece. But as soon as you can start consistently dropping mythics, your eye level will start skyrocketing quite a bit. And then the disparity then between I mean there's still going to be a big disparity between that and then going like a heroic rating, which is at like the 210, 213 range or something like that. And mythic rating is at like 220. Somewhere in there. I'm drawing a blank on it. Either way, though, like there's these massive, jumps because this I feel like the scale is much larger because we're dealing with such low eye level compared to like before when we were in the 400s. When you go from like 450 to 470, that percentage difference is way different than going from like 180 to 200 on there. So
yeah, well, it's interesting too. Like this time around in this patch, what they actually did is they made it so that Mythic rating gear was the best gear you could get. Period. You can't get as good of gear from Mythic Plus that you could from Mythic rating, which was kind of the case before, but it's like very much the case now.
Yeah, and Heroic is the same way too. But they also made a massive change though in the rating scene. Where in a Mythic raid, there's only 3 items per boss now. I'm not sure what it was before.
Yeah,
I think it was like 4 or 5.
I think it's probably just random.
Yeah, and there's no bonus rolls either, though, I don't think.
Yeah, it's this game. They really are trying to reduce the amount of loot in this game,
which is what it was like before, though.
Strange.
I think vanilla was like bosses dropped sometimes like 2 items, and you had 40 people. I mean, it was
yeah, and that you always got like 2 Fell Heart Bracers, and you had like no Warlocks.
Well, they took the EverQuest model though, right? Because back then. EverQuest, there was like 72 people in a raid, and you got like 3 items. I mean, it was brutal to like distribute loot. It was such a pain.
It only matters to the point where it's required.
Yes. Yeah.
So I know that's kind of like a weird thing to say, but like I actually don't care how much loot drops from anything.
Yeah.
It just depends on like how badly I need the loot. Yep. But if you're telling me I need item level 155 and the best gear I can get from current content is 158, like that's there's something wrong with that equation. Yeah, there's something wrong with that.
So you get to look at other sources then, and there's not a whole lot of other sources. There's a couple quests. When you hit 60, by the way, you want to kind of do the maul questing, because you get access to a cloak and a neck piece, and the cloak I think is 171, which helps for eye level, and the neck piece is like 160.
161 or 164, something like that.
So you get 2 nice pieces. I think they introduced those 2 pieces because they were just good enough to replace your BFA
your legendaries.
Yeah, legendary cloak and legendary thing. Yeah, so it was just enough to replace those because those had
like
really
get rid of
stats.
these.
Yeah, that's basically what they wanted to do. And then you can go in the auction house. The prices are a little high, but you can buy those trinkets that are eye level 200 for pretty cheap.
The Dark Moon trinkets. Yeah, I strongly recommend that. I think they're like
10
on my server they're going for like 20k, but I think it's money well spent. You'll make that money back like no time.
Probably,
like especially if you do what are the new emissaries called?
Callings.
Like,
the Callings. Yeah.
Callings. Yeah, I was gonna call them classics, but I knew that was wrong.
And the emissaries work out kind of nicely too. The Callings, I should say. Like I basically got 3 of them on my new Venthyr comp, and 2 of them coincided together where basically I had to go do 1 dungeon. And I did the 1 dungeon, and I finished 2 emissaries at the same time. I keep calling emissaries, but Callings.
They spent a lot of time, or maybe not a lot of time. They spent time re-engineering something for it to work the exact same way. That's kind of how I feel on it. Yeah. I know it's like a little bit different because you don't have to do like 4 world quests, but like you pretty much have to do 4 world quests.
Pretty much, yeah. But so with that though, the multi-boxing flip side of all these callings and everything is whatnot. As I'm pretty sure, because mine were very specific to the Venthyr thing, is that for ease of your simplicity, right? You kind of want your entire team to be on the same covenant that you're playing to make it easy. To be efficient, right? Because you could hypothetically do the rest of them, but you're going to be wasting a lot of extra time, and that's really a bit of a bummer too. Because when you have these mixed comps, you're going to run into an issue where some of the covenants you're picking, the abilities they have, are either not multi-boxing friendly or not the best choice. And that's case in point on this this Trinity comp that I'm playing right now. And when I say Trinity, it's the tank, DPS, 3 DPS, and a healer is kind of what the definition of Trinity comp is. Like you just have like all the different subsets.
I certainly think, like, after having seen the system, kind of like the system today, like after having actually played it, I agree with you that it certainly would be like very much easier just to roll the same covenant across the board. Yeah. If you are planning on doing, like, if you're just the kind of person that you're like, I'm going to do every world quest and I don't really care, I only have one team that I care about, then maybe you can mix and match.
For sure.
Go for it. But if you're the kind of person that's like, I want to do as little as possible to like get my renown up and check off the boxes, then maybe don't do that. Maybe just go for one. And I think in general, for like me, like wanting to play multiple teams, I would personally just stick to one.
Yeah. So on top of the benefits there, right? The other benefit too, when you have the same covenant, is you have the same like secondary ability. So if I'm talking about Venthyr, it was the one my Trinity comp has. Their secondary like signature covenant ability that anybody would get if they picked it. It's called Door of Shadows, which basically is a 1 minute cooldown, like 35-yard teleport, right? So it's nice if your whole team has a teleport, because if 2 people can teleport past the spot that you're trying to skip, it doesn't help you. You need the whole team to go over there. Or if you carry inside, you get a health stone essentially, right? But if only like, I mean, you can still use it if a couple people have it, but it's really nice if the whole team has the health stone, so you can hit the button and they all use the health stone.
Yeah, it's more efficient for sure.
And the Night Fae one is the same thing, where you turn into like a. It's actually kind of Final Fantasy. Yeah, it looks like Carbuncle. For Final Fantasy.
No, it's super cool. I played around with that yesterday, and I actually didn't even think about Door of Shadows usage in Mythic Plus until like you literally just said it. That being said, 35 yards line of sight, maybe it wouldn't be that impactful, but then there's going to be that one pack that you skip. Yes. Like I'm thinking that pack right before the final boss in Junkyard. You know what I'm talking about? With the chicken and the 5 ads.
Yeah, exactly. You'd want to
just imagine if you could just Door of Shadows past that. Like
sure.
it could be a huge game changer.
And you want to be
that's awesome.
You want to do that as a group. Yeah, and so the Night Fae one too, you also have the when you go to the Carbuncle, it's like a 15-yard, blink, and then it's a speed boost. So and for right now, like a really really nice use case for either one of those is in Torghast, which you have to do anyways if you want to get your legendary items, is you can skip basically some of the different traps and everything that are laid out, because it's kind of hard to push a team through those sometimes if you don't want to do them.
Yeah, I don't envy you on that, because those traps are even hard for me as like doing it on a single character. I'm like, what the hell? Like I see that the fire is coming, but like the fire ones are awful. Like if you look at it, like it's red regardless, and then it's like a little bit more red if it's gonna be on fire. It's like, what is going on?
There was one I zoned into, like it was the very first floor, and it was like a really long lava hallway, right? Like let's say like it's basically like essentially like 3 rooms deep. Like it was 3 rooms combined together. So it was a really long like just hallway, but there's lava on both sides of the path. And it was like trap after trap after trap. So it was 4 swinging axes, and then it was like the fire that's on the floor, and then like some spikes are coming up. Like it was row after row after row. And then there was one dude, and I tried to attack the guy, and the guy ran away, and he started calling for help. And then some mechanics started happening where like I didn't see the person, but something started shooting some like bolts at my entire team that basically snared us to 50%. That was never ending. So it wanted me to go through this. It wanted me to go through this whole gauntlet. And I was like, I just started this dungeon. I'm literally gonna I walked out of the dungeon and I walked back into a brand new one that was like normal. Like it didn't have. But for a solo player or group, like that's not an issue, right? But for us, I was like, okay, well at least we have the option or the luxury just to be like, you can know about. Now if you're on like out of the 6 floors, if you're on floor 5, you might have to deal with it. If you're almost done with it, you've invested that much time.
Nothing feels worse than like not finishing Torghast. Like after spending 20 to 30 minutes and you get to the final boss and you can't beat it, that's a terrible feeling.
I agree.
Yeah, I don't want to ever do that again. That was terrible.
So we talked about Torghast. We talked about the leveling, the eye levels.
Let's talk about your teams.
Okay.
So you've been playing 2 this week, right?
Yeah, so I tried out. I actually this weekend, I knew the Druids were doing pretty good. They're still hurting on eye level. I haven't actually finished an entire mythic yet. I've done 2 mythics that I've tried, and I've gotten both mythics down to the last boss. Sorry, actually the first one, the mist one. I only killed 1 boss out of the 2. But
whatever.
Yeah, I know I can beat that though. Like I know the mechanics are there. The other one I did was Halls of Atonement, and the last boss in Halls of Atonement on Mythic is insane. Like,
dude, honestly, it's hard to do that. Doable. It's hard to execute that fight as like a single solo character. Like,
did you see it on Mythic?
I've done it a few times. I haven't seen it on Mythic yet, but even on normal, like I'm like looking at the fight and I'm like everything's like moving, and then like I've gotten hit by that thing like in 3 different ways, and I'm just like.
So it's the Lord Chamberlain.
It looks simple, but it's a lot more complicated than it looks.
Yeah, so it's the Lord Chamberlain fight, and he has like 4 statues, right? And if you're familiar with Temple of Sithralis and BFA with Galv, where he just summons pillars, and you have to stand in between the pillar to get the electrocuting, shocking thing. You have to do that same exact thing in normal and heroic on there, where he starts siphoning like the red anima or whatever stuff from the pillar. But in Mythic, he siphons it from all 4 pillars at the same time, right? So
do you have to move out of the way after that?
yes, yeah. So basically, so how and this happens at percentages, right? So throughout the fight, like he'll take one of the pillars and he'll chuck them at your team, and you can kind of see where it's going to direct because the pillar is facing which way it's facing. That's the way it's going to get chucked at. So you can kind of dodge that a little bit. If you don't dodge it, then your characters take some damage. They get like super knocked back. But then he does a thing where he teleports in the middle of the room and then sucks all the pillars next to him, and then it basically makes like a nice, like, think of like a plus sign is where it. So he does an ability where he pushes out.
Yeah, it's like a diamond push.
Yeah, it's like a diamond push. Yeah, and then they all push out. So you have to be in one of the little angles where you're not hitting that. But then you need to run your team into the middle, stand on. My strat basically is to stand on top of him, and then do a star formation where or like the same thing, like a diamond where
that's what I was gonna guess would be the most effective.
So you need to spread out, but then you need to hit like your follow key or your interact with target key to kind of like flip your characters to face him, but you don't actually have to face him. But if you don't face him, you're not doing any damage, right? And then he does his ability, which basically, instead of siphoning the pillar, which does a massive AoE damage to your target group and wipes you, it does damage to your players. But even at eye level 165, which is still 20 eye levels lower than Mythic, the damage that my team was taking was very unsustainable. Like it was probably draining each player over 50%, 60% of their health just by his drain ability that you're required to do as one of the mechanics in the fight. So then when you get done with that, you sort of stabilize, then you're still dodging him again, and you have to do that, I think, 2 or 3 times before you beat him.
How far did you get him? Because that's just like
I got him.
Everything you're telling me and everything I know about the fight, it doesn't sound like very good. Like, it sounds like it'd be very hard.
I got him to I want to say 15% or so, but like I got him to 15% because I did the mechanic properly like twice, but I just
the third time. It's the exhaustion of having done it for a minute.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's the thing too, is these fights are lasting so long in this thing, and I think gear will fix some of that because I'm used to even on Mythic 10s, right, which was a pretty big accomplishment. Mythic 10s and BFA, you could still kill a lot of the bosses in a minute or a minute and a half.
Yeah, we were talking about that last night, where like any fight, like I always liked fortified weeks because boss fights never really lasted longer than 90 seconds, and like I can execute things perfectly for 90 seconds, but as the fight drags on and as you have to execute more and more things, your opportunity to make mistakes increases. And as a multi-boxer, your ability to recover from those mistakes is like nigh impossible.
Yeah,
it's like not there. So
yeah,
I mean, I think with like 5 or 10 more item levels, like that fight's probably going to be a joke for you on Mythic 0. And then
as long as
it's probably always going to be that key. Yeah, it's probably always going to be that key that's going to be like the key you're going to do on a fortified week. And it's like probably your last resort.
Exactly.
Hopefully.
Yeah. So a lot of this stuff, though, on these keys that we do now, it's going to be like, man, I have to make sure I execute the mechanics like perfectly, because there on some of it though, like the way it worked, it was nice is that you could just burn bosses down, but now bosses seem to have like a lot of phases in them, so you kind of get stopped anyways, and you have to like do the entire phase. You can't skip it.
They want you to do this mechanic 2 or 3 times, and you have no way around it. The boss in Cyrna that you were struggling with the symbols above the head, the guessing game where you have to do it 3 times.
Yes.
Like that sucks.
Hypothetically, if you have enough DPS, you could skip the last one because she doesn't start casting it until she's at 10% health. So you might be able to do a burn there, but the best spot to do a burn phase, because you have to move so much, is in the very beginning of the fight, just to like
get over it.
Yeah, just to get her health down on there. But there is a
I did that boss earlier actually, like an hour or 2 ago, and at first I was like, oh man, these symbols are like super easy to like tell apart. Like I just like kind of was like creeping through it, and then we got to like the 3rd one, and I was like, oh man, I have like, no idea which one it is. I'm like, I totally get why like Multi-Days was losing his mind the other day.
So
I thought you'd appreciate that.
No, I appreciate that. So some strats, right? The first one is I don't have a link to it, but you could probably. I'll try to find it somehow in here.
It might have been the one I sent to you. It's just you always check the same things, and then you see which one doesn't have it.
Well, no, there's a guessing game out there. Somebody recreated the game in there where they gave you the 4 different like random symbols, and you had to basically pick it, and you could just keep hitting next. So you can you can train your brain in like 10 minutes. I did it for about 10 minutes, and after 10 minutes, I could get them in like a couple seconds or less. Like, so there's one thing that you can, because as a multi-boxer, I mean, you don't have to play all
You can't
five.
rely on anyone else.
Yeah, you can't rely on anybody else. Like, you have to do it. And also the annoyance too is like when you're like working towards her, there's 6 different little like sections that you have to like kind of answer the question beforehand. It's kind of nice when you're in a team because like somebody can stand on a bunch of them, you can see them all up at the same time. Maybe I'm not sure how you guys did that in a solo group. Did each person?
Oh yeah, I just let other people do it.
Okay, there you go. Exactly.
Yeah, I didn't do any of it. So I was healing, so I was just like, you guys do it.
There is a little nice trick, right? Is when you kill the first boss, before you run into the section where the mist caller starts, because she starts right at the entrance there, and then she kind of goes back to where her main spot is. You can put a target marker on her, like a skull or an X or something, and you can see where she's walking to, so you can skip the first 2 sections because you already know the answer because she's basically floated that way. So in the first one, she goes through her misty wall on the first one, and then you can kind of see which way she goes for the second one, and then she kind of like disappears in terms of like you lose the target. But so out of the 6 that you need to do, you can skip 2 of them right off the bat that you don't have to worry about. And they're
annoying. Like I think that's going to be a super annoying like construct in Mythic Plus.
Oh,
like,
for sure.
Maybe it'll be like second nature in 6 months, but like
maybe, yeah.
I don't know. Like it's
so
it would feel really bad to like lose a Mythic Plus key because of that, and it's going to happen.
Well, that's always been the hardest thing for multi-boxing though. Has been like the those mechanics. Like I referenced Temporal Cithralis again, where all the like. The rotating orbs or whatnot that you had to like kind of like go through. You typically had to go on each character solo to work through them. And that's what made season 4 so nice. It was the hardest one in there. You were able to skip, every single time if you just pulled that boss through it all, which was really nice. I mean, it made that doable, which made a +10 easier than a +9, which is not how things typically should work, but it did. So that's just one of those things. Those hypothetically were some of the easier dungeons. I've yet to try, and the other ones on Mythic, I'm sure they're all going to be crazy. But the good news is I haven't run anything where I've been like, all right, that's not doable. It's more or less just like, all right, you need to practice, wipe it out a few times, get them down.
I'll be curious to see how you handled the other side. So I did that in beta, and like you have to
dungeon, yeah.
I think each character is gonna have to take a different portal.
No. So I'm guessing on that.
No, am I wrong on that?
So I looked at the other side, right? Like he makes 4 portals. Okay, it's gonna be a long fight, but I think you can have your entire team take 1 portal. And just then
just run across the other side.
Well, no, it would take 1 portal, destroy the totem, come back in, do the mechanics, wait till he goes to it, summoning a portal again, go to another portal. So basically, instead of doing mechanic like twice, which is what a normal team would do, you're going to do it 4 times. Where you're going to jump over, destroy a totem, come back.
I didn't really understand what I was doing when I did it.
Oh, does he? I didn't know that. Chad mentioning that there's that he summons visions on all the platforms. So maybe that won't be a
it might. No, that's what I'm saying. You're gonna have to split them up to some degree, and I don't know how we're gonna do that.
You can do that. Yeah, I think it's gonna be a skip dungeon then for sure.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be another siege. I think if there's any risk of any dungeon being a Siege of Borealis, it's that one.
Yeah, but that's okay. So there's that one, and then Spires of Ascension, and if they can tune the damage on the last boss in terms of how much damage you're taking from the dot to try to grab all the little orbs, then that'll be okay. But if we look at the grand scheme of things, right, like 6 out of 8 dungeons for multiboxing isn't that bad. If I look back on BFA, like dungeons that weren't doable, obviously Siege, but then a lot of them like people never touch, like Shrine of the Storm. Like nobody liked doing that one at all.
I like Shrine of the Storm.
And I don't know, for multiboxing even?
I really like once I did it enough times, I actually began to like it. The last boss was like really annoying to learn, but it wasn't bad at all. Like
what was
as
the
long
comp
as
you
you
used for the last boss?
I just controlled from a DPS. I'm sorry, I kept my DPS like separate from my tank, and then I would just strafe on my DPS to avoid the tendrils. Gotcha. And then when the phase changed, I would just switch to a DPS.
Yes, I gotcha.
I would round robin interrupt, and I would just run around in circles.
So
that my tank never got hit.
Yes,
So they never got hit by the tendrils, but he also never got hit by that other ooze, because what people don't realize is that the one down in the tank and healer phase like hit like a truck. Like, and you could see where it was, so I would just avoid it, and I would just kill the other ones.
Well, it's also important too to have a healer on that one as well, because you can dispel the curse or whatever it is that basically causes your healer to get one shot. Because it's like a buff plus a damage debuff on your healer.
I don't think I ever realized that.
I gotcha. It makes your healer do a lot of damage, but also intake a lot of damage too. And it's like a stacking debuff on there. But yeah, like so even then, like when I think about BFA though, there's a lot of dungeons that I kind of skipped. I'm trying to like if I can like remember the names of a lot of them now.
Yeah, I mean, I skipped a Tall Desire, for instance. Like, exactly. I didn't like a Tall Desire.
A Tall Desire was only doable for me on Druids, and it was only doable on certain affixes. Let me see here.
Yeah, there were plenty of dungeons I didn't really touch. But I mean, it's also week 1, and I remember, like, there being, like, for a while, there were, like, 3 dungeons I did.
Yes.
There were only 3 dungeons I did. Those were the 3 dungeons I did. I would have weeks where I wouldn't get a single key for any of those dungeons, and I just wouldn't do Mythic Plus that week. Like that was like legitimately how I got started. So,
yeah.
I mean, we're gonna be singing a different tune in 3 months, I'm sure.
For sure, and I'm hoping it's the same route that I did with like I like to reference like the Horrific Visions, where as soon as the Horrific Visions came out, I was like, this is not doable. Like multi-boxing cannot do this. And then we slowly inched forward, and we got to actually complete the whole thing, which was really cool. So I think every dungeon is going to be doable on Mythic for sure to complete, because Siege of Rallis you could do on Mythic, and even I'm drawing a blank on his name, but Sir Scruffington, he even did a siege on like a +7, so like it was still doable. It was just really hard. So hopefully we get to that kind of like that degree of things on there.
Yeah, I'm sure you will. And I know there's other people.
There's others going for it too. Hopefully, yeah.
I'm really excited at some of the names of people that are like going into hardware. It's going to be really interesting to see how they do, because I know that they're like great players and they're going to do really well. Yeah, they're definitely gonna create some competition. You're gonna have plenty of work to do.
You're saying you're going hardware too, huh? I'm just kidding.
That is not what I'm saying. I'm still not ready to make that jump.
I know we had that in notes or whatnot about hardware boxing, but it seems like people have gotten kind of a formula down now of what to get and how much it's going to cost on there.
Yeah, and people have figured it out.
Yeah, and the price point has gotten a little bit better. There's still definitely a barrier to entry. I'd say if you have a machine, what would you guesstimate maybe? If you want a 5-box, because 5-box seems like the magic number, right? Like if you want, and you already have one machine.
We're talking about just the for one machine, or for if you're a 5-boxing.
Yeah, if you're at one machine, you want to go up to 5, so you need 4 more machines plus all the pieces. Like like in the current iteration, I'm sure we can even like squeeze it down even more, but it seems like it's still, I don't know.
I think you'd have a really hard time getting it much below 1,000.
Oh, yeah. Because I think
1,000 is probably the sweet spot. If you could get there, great. But realistically, probably closer to 15.
Yeah, I would say yeah, because there's a lot of other pieces too. Like I think you can get a machine right now. Yeah, you can get a machine right now with that'll run WoW probably at like 50 FPS for like $250. And that's with like a 1030 graphics card and things like that. And a small solid state thing. Then in this route, basically, you find refurbished machines. There's a bunch of different avenues to take for that. But then when you go that, you still need the KM switches. You still need to make sure you have the extra monitor if you don't have it. You still need some kind of keyboard. Although it depends on the KM switch you get. Some keyboards and mouse, it'll see it, and you can set up your that way if you want to go with onboard macros or things like that on there.
But I mean, keyboard and mouse plus KM plus HDMI into one monitor, like that could easily add like $400 there, right?
Especially on what you use. Especially if you don't have the cables laying around, because if you get the multi-view monitor or whatnot, you still need to buy 5 HDMI cables, which I mean, typically people have some of those laying around, but maybe not 5 of them. And then you got to think about your electricity bill and all that. So it's definitely getting doable, I think, and I think a lot more people are tapping into it, especially because we're in it's almost been a month now since the Blizzard made that change. So it's been almost a month, a couple more days.
It's kind of hard to believe, but
yeah. So with that, I mean, everything seems like it's okay. They've been very firm on their stance, and a lot more people are jumping on this bandwagon of doing it. It's fun. And there still are options, right? If you still, and there's nothing wrong with it. If you still want to go multi-box, but not the hardware route, I mean, you can still software box. It's just if you're focusing on dungeons and things like that, it becomes a little more difficult unless it's like transmog. Like the dungeons aren't as demanding in terms of mechanics, or you can kind of just like power through them. I think the software route is also doable too. And then you can complete everything else. You can still level a team, no problem. To max level, you can.
Yeah, I mean, it really depends on your goals, right?
Yeah. So if you identify your goals, yeah, exactly. But if you want to do competitive PvP, competitive, looks like I'm losing frames. Sorry. No. All right, I think it's back. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. It looks like it just dropped a couple frames there. Okay, cool. Oh well. All right, we're good. Sorry, I lost my train of thought.
No, you're fine. Yeah, no, I mean, I think hardware is kind of depending on your goals is probably like for my goals it would have to be the answer.
Yeah.
It's not like something I'm ready to do today, and I think realistically, if I were going to do it, it would probably be like a year down the line.
Mm-hmm.
But I'd really like to see how Final Fantasy plays out.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair.
So I don't know. Like I'm kind of cool just being in the lane that I'm in, and I'm really excited to see what other people have to do. Like I wish I could be that person like paving the way, but unfortunately, I have to sit in the back seat for this one.
Sometimes it's not fun. Sometimes you just want the answers, right? Like.
That's true.
I'm reflecting this back to Burning Crusade when I did 4 Shaman and like super high end PvP, right? And they get arenas and everything. It was frustrating because there was no template. Like I just wanted to be able to like log in or go to a website and somebody's like, yeah, take these abilities, do it this way, and you know like there's your treasure, right? Instead I'm like, all right, does this work? And again, it's fun, you know, but sometimes you just want to be like, all right, give me the template. So that's why we need like somebody else like Sir Scruffington, where I can just like pull up his YouTube video. I'm like, all right, that's the mechanics, that's the strat for this fight. He just spent the last 5 hours figuring it out, and I can just take advantage.
Well, yeah, I don't want to name drop anyone. But yeah, there's some pretty big names of people that are getting into hardware, and I'm pretty excited to see what they do because I know they're gonna do good things.
Oh yeah, for sure. I agree. I guess I want to touch real quick on the comps that I've been trying as well. I think we kind of like.
Yeah, do you want to talk about your Trinity next? Because you kind of talked about the Druids, but if you want to,
so the
final
Druids
thoughts on that.
Yeah, the Druids is my first team. They're really good. They're really good at burst. They fall apart, which is kind of known at movement. I thought Starfall was going to fix that. Starfall is such a DPS loss; it's not worth it. So I've actually kind of abandoned Starfall at this point. But
I kind of thought that was going to be the case. I remember you using it at 60, and I was like, well, maybe I'm wrong, but
yeah. So and also the other ability I thought was gonna be really good too, Heart of the Wild, which kind of buffs your healing and reduces the mana cost, is also not that great because it wastes a GCD when you need a heal. You don't want to burn a GCD in the first place, so you can actually kind of preemptively do it. There's a legendary I'm looking at getting that should take care of that for me, which is the one I've been like kind of going for, which doubles the affinity. And
legendaries are going to change a lot of things, so I'm kind of excited to see how that plays out.
Okay, gotcha. And so there was the that was the Druid comp. Then I tried the Shamans. Shamans are also a little rough at the moment, and it's just a movement thing. Also, their DPS is a little hard to maximize on. The other item, though, is 5 prop paladins. I tried it a little bit. I think it's got potential. There's a lot of melee mechanics you got to kind of work around. So there's that one. But the Trinity is kind of like what I'm falling back on right now. So that's the really good one. So out of the comps, I would suggest right now 5 druids, or a Trinity comp, which would be a tank. And I like prop paladin, and then 3 BM hunters is kind of the staple there because they can move while DPSing, and then a healer, and I also recommend the Resto Shaman there. So that seems.
Do you think?
You go ahead.
Do you think 5 druids is like actually that good, or do you think it's just like a comfort pick for you? I'm just curious.
Yeah, no. So it's I like it because I can do every facet of the game with it. I can also do PvP with it. Whereas the Trinity comp, PvP is a no go.
Right.
Just because there's no interact with target. Yeah, and then your pets from hunters keep you in combat forever. So even if you do get in a battle, you're sitting there being unable to follow or mount or anything for about 2 minutes. So it's strictly PvE, but War mode as a whole though is kind of changed, where it's not as incentivized anymore. So um, you know, the, I don't feel like I'm missing out as much on it, and I can still do arenas with like 200s and a paladin anyways. So I'm kind of looking forward to that. So I'm optimistic on this team as well, and I'm kind of back on the saddle on them, because your options are a little bit more limited if you want to push it harder. But yeah, so 5 druids or the Trinity comp is kind of my pick going forward. I think we'll see a lot of Trinity comps coming on there, because there's a lot of areas where you need a healer anyways for dispels and things like that, and just overall stability of the group.
Yeah, it does seem like they went dispel heavy,
Yeah.
and that makes sense. I mean, I think Hunter Trinity is generally like the safe pick at the beginning of an expansion, and maybe with like legendaries or borrowed power of some sort, like conduits.
Oh yeah, down the road,
we'll
we'll
see
for sure.
something like open up, like druids might become stronger, or shamans might find their place.
Once you can.
But right now,
power
everything is like super watered down. I mean,
agreed.
The game is just in a watered down state,
Yeah.
and
And
there's
that's how BFA started out too. Druids and BFA like were one of the worst tanks, and they felt like paper. I mean, they took a crazy amount of damage. And that's why like I only played druids for like the first couple of weeks of BFA, and then I switched off to different teams, because they weren't as strong as their Legion counterpart prior to it on there. So yeah, with that, we're a weekend, and I'm super happy with how everything's been playing out. The expansion has been awesome so far. I think it's rejuvenated a lot of people that haven't been playing it. Obviously, for the IS boxers, that's been a little rough on there, but I think there's the solution they have out there, kind of satiates quite a few people, and a lot of people are just kind of waiting on the sideline for something in the future, or to see how this pans out. So I think the future for everybody is looking good. It's on the upswing right now.
Yeah, I mean, you can always like multi-box other games. There's plenty of them out there.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
You can always play WoW solo. It's not like the worst thing in the world.
There's quite a few doing that too as well, which isn't bad,
I think we should all just like come together on one server and just start like our own little Mythic Plus group.
It works. Yeah, so with that, I guess that's a good stopping
Probably
point.
A good stopping point. Yeah. I don't know. We definitely had well over an hour of content tonight.
Yeah, for sure. I'll make
Sorry about the internet, although I guess it's not really in my control. So.
No, it totally happens. It's fine. Yeah, and then we'll be back next week, and maybe a special guest. We'll see. But
yes,
sounds good.
We'll see.
Thank you, Zach. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Have a good night.